Hello and good afternoon. I'm Malcolm King, interim president and proud alumnus of the Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to our first Great Hall Public Program of the new year. As you heard a moment ago, the Cooper Union is among the nation's very best colleges for students pursuing degrees in architecture, art, and engineering. And our students question the status quo and push boundaries in pursuit of a better world through their practices. And as an institution, we've been dedicated to making education accessible to those types of students since our founding. The Great Hall is an essential part of the Cooper Union, serving as a platform for social and civic discourse, as well as cultural exploration for 165 years. Today, we honor that legacy as we host Amy Sherald and Annie Leibovitz, whose works are celebrated for their powerful ability to capture the essence of their subjects. They provide a vibrant reflection of culture, society, and politics. Darren Walker, who is esteemed for his impact on human progress as the head of the Ford Foundation and who is valued for his insight, joins us as a moderator today. This afternoon's event is presented by Ursula, the magazine published by the renowned art gallery Hauser and Wirth, which has a stellar reputation for its dedication to artists, support of visionary projects, and curation of historically significant exhibitions. Beyond serving as a platform for extraordinary art, the gallery is known as a global institution that fosters discourse, scholarship, and engagement. Hauser and Wirth has consistently championed artists whose works reflect the world's complexities, provoke thought, and inspire action. So much like the Cooper Union, we can think of Hauser and Wirth as a civic institution. I thank you for choosing to be with us today, and I encourage you to keep an eye on our public program schedule for more great events like this in the year ahead. Now, please welcome Russell Salmon, Hauser and Wirth's Director of Public Programs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wow. Thank you all for being here this afternoon, and thank you to Malcolm for that introduction. I'm Russell Salmon, Director of Public Programs at Hauser and Wirth, and it is incredible to see this historic room full of people for what is sure to be an equally historic conversation. This afternoon, marking the final day of the exhibition Annie Leibovitz, Stream of Consciousness at Hauser and Wirth 22nd Street, we are honored to welcome artists Annie Leibovitz and Amy Sherald to discuss their respective practices with President of the Ford Foundation, Darren Walker. Annie Leibovitz, Stream of Consciousness, presents a group of works, landscapes, still lifes, and portraits made by the distinguished American artist over the last 2 decades. Foregoing a linear timeline and conventional thematic constraints, the exhibition reveals Leibovitz's associative thought processes and the fluid visual dialogue innately created among her many photographs. The exhibition calls attention to significant cultural markers of our time and features both familiar images of iconic writers, performers, and visual artists. A portrait of Amy Sherald in her childhood home is among them, and images that have never been exhibited publicly before. The associative juxtapositions created among this diverse range of subjects demonstrates Leibovitz's ability to balance intimacy and theatricality, the exquisitely personal and the grandly universal. Her eye is guided by a unique intuition and preternatural sense of narrative. One of America's defining contemporary portraitists, Amy Sherald's first major museum survey, Amy Sherald American Sublime, is currently on view at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. The exhibition presents nearly 50 of Sherald's luminous paintings, including her famous portraits of Michelle Obama and Breonna Taylor, poetic early works, and new works on view for the first time. Sherald's paintings convey the quiet power of everyday people and invite viewers to participate in a more complex debate about accepted notions of American identity. This April, American Sublime will travel to the Whitney Museum of American Art and will be Sherald's first solo exhibition at a New York museum. Darren Walker is president of the Ford Foundation, a $16 billion international social justice philanthropy. Under his leadership, the Ford Foundation became the first nonprofit in U.S. history to use $1 billion designated social bond to stabilize nonprofit organizations in the wake of COVID-19. Before joining Ford, Darren was vice president at the Rockefeller Foundation. Previously, he was COO of Harlem's Abyssinian Development Corporation. Darren co-founded both the U.S. Impact Investing Alliance and the President's Council on Disability Inclusion in Philanthropy. In 2022, he was awarded France's highest cultural honor, Commander of the French Order of Arts and Letters, for leadership in the arts. In 2023, he was also appointed by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II to the Order of the British Empire for services to UK-US relations. He serves on many boards, including the National Gallery of Art, Carnegie Hall, the High Line, and the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. In 2024, President Joe Biden awarded Darren the National Humanities Medal, which honors individuals or groups whose work has deepened the nation's engagement with the arts and humanities. Before we get started, I have some very important and special people to thank. Thank you to our friends at Cooper Union for their gracious collaboration on today's program, Interim President Malcolm King, School of Art Dean Adriana Formiga, Assistant Dean Yuri Majny, the unflappable Media Relations Manager Kim Newman, and Director of Events Melissa Mark Shee, who helped organize all of today's logistics. Thank you to everyone at Annie and Amy's studios who helped with all of the planning to make today's talk possible, especially Karen Mulligan and Rena Kim. Also, huge thanks to the team at the Ford Foundation, Juliana Woodley and Azrael Green-Pina. From the Hauser and Wirth team, thank you to Mark Peo, Mary Grace Reeder, Adrian Chow, Johanna Reitveld, Madeline Warren, Carolina Sabater, Aisha Shand, Marissa Passy, Anna Brown, Emily Bergerson, Rachel Adler, Jessica Way, Christine McMonigal, Michael Wooten, Greer Philly, and Jocelyn Lowe for their work and support on this program. And last of all, thank you all again for being here. Now it is truly an honor and a privilege to introduce our incredible guests. Please join me in welcoming Annie Leibovitz, Amy Sherald, and Darren Walker.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. You are in for a treat.
Annie and I are nervous.
So we were just back in the green room. We were just back in the green room, and they were saying, "Why are we here?
We're Rex.
Why are we here?"
We're Rex. We're
Artists
Rex.
that don't know how to do or don't like to do artist talks, raise your hand.
But you are here, and you are here because we need to hear from Amy Sherald and Annie Leibovitz. We need your voice, we need your perspective, we need your art.
So you should go to Hauser and Wirth, and you should go definitely to the Museum of Modern Art in San Francisco. And it's going to be the Whitney soon, which is great.
We're going to get to the promotions in a moment.
I did call Amy a couple days ago because I said, "Are we putting slides up here, or what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And we realized we didn't really have enough time to do that. And then Amy told me she was a wreck, which was kind of like great to hear, that we were both wrecks about doing this. I think it's probably because our work is so intimate. I mean, it doesn't seem intimate on some level, but having had the opportunity to see you work in your studio, and how focused you are, I on some level the photo session is intimate. That to sort of come together and start talking. Anyway.
Yeah.
But
We're both intuitive in how we work, I think. Because when you photographed me, I got to see how you work.
well,
And it was similar. It's similar to how I work, which it felt like not a lot of, when I say not exactly organized, it's like you leave room for the organic to happen.
one is hopeful for that.
Yeah.
But I remember the first session we had, and by the way, we've worked together twice now, and I'm still not happy with what I have, and on some level, it was so nice to hear Amy said, "I want you to take my picture again," and so I'm excited. I'm really excited to do that. I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, we were talking about.
Oh no! So what I wanted to tell you is I was
Yeah.
doing my research, and you said you were doing your research, and you were looking up me, and I was looking up you, and then my editor Sharon Delano sent me an article, that David Hockney had written about is painting better than photography.
Yes.
And it sent me in a tizzy because of course he ended up saying that painting was better than photography, and then I got
You didn't
into
like
this,
that? You didn't like that answer?
But then I kind of looked it up and I realized it was written in 2004.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, this is coming from a painter.
Yeah.
Because and also in 2004, because so much has happened since then with photography and digital work. And he did mention towards the end of his piece that he, that with the input of new technical digital work, it was coming closer to painting, and I thought that was interesting. But you work with photographs too, so I always found that very interesting.
It depends on what kind of painting, right? Because I think photography and painting are similar when you're using film, because it captures the same thing. Like I was just recently watching 100 Years of Solitude, and in the series, this guy brought the main character Daguerrean type camera obscura. Did I say that right?
I think it's a couple of things put together.
So it was the beginnings of the camera.
Back then.
Yeah, and his intent once he saw his first image was to try to go around and take pictures to try to capture God, to see if he could take a picture of God. Like God is out there. Like let me see if I can take a picture and this energy will allow itself to be seen. But I think in painting and when you work with film, let's say. I don't know what kind of film, because I'm technically not a photographer, guys. So 35 millimeter camera?
Now it's almost anything. In fact, Hockney himself sort of introduced me to the idea of breaking the frame.
Yeah.
And not, because I, having done this a pretty long time, my original work was really based on Cartier-Bresson, Robert Frank 35 millimeter, in a frame. Basically Hockney did these photo montages of all these photographs kind of put together, and I said, oh my God, that is how the eye actually sees, and I see what he means about how limiting photography is. But it's different for us in portraiture. I think
so.
I think the way you use photography, anyway,
we're going after the same thing, and I think it's energy. I think in your work you capture the essence of what it is to be human, in my work, I capture the essence of what it is to be human, and it's the energy. And I always bring up Alice Neal because she wasn't a realist painter, but she also captured the essence of what it was, through paint.
So I was so jealous of you as a painter because, and I would cite Alice Neal as well, in portraiture because you can look at, Alice Neal it's definitely done in pieces. Mm-hmm. You feel like the portrait is done she's looking at different parts of the body and she's painting them, and it creates movement. Mm-hmm. And so I've always been, so all I'm really trying to bring up now is the new digital work. I'm actually coming clean now and saying I'm starting to take pieces and work almost like a painter, but not, anyway, Alice Neal.
In your beginnings, you were a painting major, right?
Not a very good painter.
What was your work like?
But I didn't have the patience to. I was too young.
Yeah.
And I see what it takes for you to paint.
And I desire the instant gratification of the camera.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I desire the instant gratification of the camera.
Do you feel that the camera is a medium that gives you instant gratification? Do you feel that the camera, you get gratification
Nothing's
instantly?
instant. It's bullshit. Nothing is instant. It really is. And just look
It's the grass is greener kind of thing. I feel like the grass is greener, but it's really not.
Originally it was. Originally it was fast. Originally it was, as a young person, you're out there just photographing everything, and then, you're not really. But now it's definitely more. Anyway, I do want to say that what I do is really working in popular culture, what's going on right now, and you are doing something. Amy, you are a genius. You're
a genius.
You are a genius.
We have two geniuses that are acknowledging that each is a genius.
I just have to say, I picked up, kudos to this catalog, because what happened was, these are my notes. My daughter said, "Mom, don't take that up on stage. You'll never find anything." So, to see this done in a way where you turn the page, and it's so powerful to me to see your work like this, to see how you really are thinking in this catalog, and you've started, maybe all along you've been making it up. I'm not making it up, but you're making up a world.
Yes.
That is, I'm so, again, envious. I'm dealing with kind of a semi-reality, although there's no such thing as reality.
Yeah.
But,
I see world making when I look at your catalogs, though. Like when I went through Wonderland, that was world making. And because I also went through a phase where I was really into Alice in Wonderland. And I just love to see the theatrics and the tonality and the narrative and how you composed these images. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. So I think,
But one of the things you do, Amy, I think, is you have a particular insight and perspective and representation of blackness and of a humanity and of a dignity that you seem to be compelled to want to paint. One of your favorite paintings, there are so many beautiful, amazing Amy Sherald paintings, is the painting Welfare Queen. Mm-hmm. I love that painting. Talk about Welfare Queen. Speaking of film, it's the only painting that I ever thought about making into a short film. When I say short, it could be like 30 seconds. But I had a studio in Baltimore, Maryland,
And I would walk to my studio from where I lived, which was this neighborhood called Bolton Hill. And I would have to walk up a street called Utah Place. And on this street, it was like, there was a market called Lexington Market. There was a methadone clinic. It was just like complete and total chaos. And I came up with the idea because I was thinking about a painting. And there was this girl that was standing on the corner, and I was standing there. I used to listen to, like on repeat, I would always listen to the March of the Penguins soundtrack for some reason. So there's all this chaos around me. There's like people yelling. There's like the guy that just got out of prison whose name was Swole, who's selling water. There's like somebody selling there's Fruit of Islam. There's like a woman who was like miming to like gospel music on the corner. And then there was just this one girl that was standing there. And in my mind, I imagined that all these people that were walking towards her, past her, that they were taking something off of her and putting something on her. And for some reason, Chicken Soup of the Soul was coming up. But like, maybe I was reading that book at the time, I'm not sure. But in the painting itself is a friend of mine named April, who was born in Baltimore, Maryland, in a neighborhood called Cherry Hill. And she was the first in her family to go to college. She went to Harvard. She went on to Columbia. And for me, she represented that kind of evolution, that transformation. And so she is welfare queen. And so like after they transform her from this, young girl to this princess, then she's walking around on stilts, I guess. So she's like bigger than life. And she's handing out something, I'm not sure yet, but this is why I've never made this movie, because when I talk about it, I'm like, yeah, no, it's not gonna be good.
I think there's great potential. Annie, you have in some ways created the soundtrack of American life through photography. And you have photographed just about every celebrity. And not only have you photographed them, you have done the iconic photograph. So I think about Demi Moore, a pregnant Demi Moore on the cover of Vanity Fair. Was that your idea, or did Demi say, let me get naked and take this picture?
I had photographed Demi and Bruce Willis together on occasion, and Vanity Fair was doing a cover on Demi Moore, and they said the only problem is Demi's pregnant, so you're going to have to work around that, because no one. You're going to have to work around her pregnancy. In those days, you didn't photograph, someone looking pregnant. That was, so I was, I went out to LA armed to basically photograph Demi's, face, do a head portrait, which I'm not very good at, by the way. Interestingly enough, I had done some work with Demi and Bruce when she was pregnant with their first child, and I did some photographs of her nude with Bruce and pregnant, and on another occasion. And so I said, listen, why don't we do some, since you're here, let's go ahead and do some pictures of you, nude now, so you have the second child. And photographed, and so you can see the baby. And so we took these pictures, and as I was taking them, I said, I wonder if this could be a cover, if we could run this. I brought the material back to New York. Tina Brown was the editor, and I was with Susan Sontag at the time. And Susan saw it, and she said, you have to do this. I'm calling Tina Brown right now. You have to run this. This is too important. You have to do this. And, at the time, we actually reached out to Demi and said, how do you feel? Are you comfortable, we didn't really know what its ramifications were and how important it would be in the scheme of things. Demi and I talked about, well, what does it mean? We had to try to figure out how to talk about it. And of course, it went on to, it's turned out to be so important. I mean, doctors put it in their offices.
It's a cultural,
Yeah.
you transformed what for centuries had been this difficult cultural reality of pregnancy and the inconvenience of the way a woman looks while she's very pregnant, especially. And you transformed something into a cultural asset. I mean, all sorts of women now get naked when they're 8 months pregnant. It's transformed the way as a cultural phenomenon. You transformed how
I think of how Rihanna brought it full on, and I admire Rihanna so much for she's just sort of walking around, and it's so beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful now. It's very, very beautiful.
That's the power of art. It is the power of art. And Amy, when you think about the moment you learned that Michelle Obama had chosen you.
Come on, church.
I mean, you were, it's not as if you were unknown. You had gallery shows. I'd seen your work at Monique.
I was known in the art world.
Yeah, in the art world. You were absolutely known. And of course,
baby known. I was a baby.
I just want to add one quick thing about I have to say it about Michelle Obama. Having worked with her the year she was in the White House, what you gave her in that was you gave her back herself, because she had lost herself in the White House, and you gave her back her dignity and herself and who she was, and it's such a powerful portrait. Amy.
Thank you. That means a lot. Oh my God.
No, oh my God. I mean, I felt so bad for Mrs. Obama. I mean, for Michelle, towards the end especially, she just hated it.
Yeah.
Just hated it.
It was rough. It was
and
rough
so
for her. Yeah.
where were you? Were you driving on I-10 to, what were you doing when Thelma Golden called you and said, go to the White House?
I mean, I wish Thelma had called me. I didn't meet Thelma. I met Thelma for the first time in the White House. And I'm sitting there should I be more excited to meet Thelma or Barack? Because I'm kind of excited to meet Thelma. But Dorothy Moss called me. I was in my studio. I was at in a residency, a 3-year kind of live workspace residency program in Baltimore. And I was working. I was painting. And she called and she's like, you should sit down. And I'm like, I don't want to sit down. Just tell me what it is. And she said she chose you to paint her portrait. And I was like, it's just ugh. And I sat down with my dog, August Wilson, who was also a Virgo like his mom. And I was like, your mom's gonna be famous. You'll never have to eat cheap dog food again. But I also had a knowing, right? So I had a knowing. I've been through a lot in my life, and I always say I didn't survive everything I went through not to make it. I didn't know whether I was going to be chosen or not, but I had a very strong feeling about painting her. And even in the interview process, I didn't realize that I was there to talk to her and Barack was there, because in my mind, the opportunity only came with me putting her image into the world and connecting with her. And I think it was, I remember Barack had asked a question and she was like, no, he was like, how would you paint me? And I was like, I don't know, I actually haven't thought about it. Because in my mind, I was thinking about Michelle, because I felt,
I'm not interested in painting you. I want to paint her.
I mean, I would have, but Michelle, Michelle is Michelle. You know what I mean? And even Barack knows she's more popular than he is. You know what I'm saying? So
I told you guys you were in for a treat. Okay, so Annie, did you know that you were going to be Annie Leibovitz? Did you know that you were destined to be like amazing and that you had this talent that you knew as a kid? So tell us. Get the microphone.
I think one of the things I think that's true about Amy too is we love our work. We work. We just love what we do, and that propelled me through all of these years, and even to this day, I love what I do. I am on a mission for the body of work. Having done this so many years and have such a big archive that to look at all these years, it even overwhelms me, to understand. So I feel very responsible to the body of work and sense of history and culture and that I will continue to do that. So, but thank you.
You talked about history,
right?
And you're loving history, and you understand that photography has a particular role. When I think about Frederick Douglass and those photographs,
that was like a very important, portrait of him.
Well, and he was the most photographed man.
Yeah, he was for sure.
In the 19th century, and it was really important that he was. But you see yourself as documenting history, not a photographer, but you truly see yourself having a responsibility to do that.
And I like to try to stay, try to stay current. So, yeah.
I didn't realize that you were a wartime photographer, until I was going. I don't know what I've looked at so much over the past 2 weeks about you, but I was reading about Sarajevo, and I didn't realize that you were there photographing in the midst of everything that was happening.
Well, Susan Sontag went, and to her chagrin, I trailed along,
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be in places, it's interesting because, with everything that's going on now, I do think some of the greatest photography that's so intact right now is our photojournalism. I think it's really very powerful. I think photography, in answer to Hockney, we've never had better photojournalism as right now. And, every single day in the newspaper we see things, or online, that is so powerful.
The way the fires are being documented right now also, just shout out to the photographers in Los Angeles.
The way the fire in LA is being documented.
Some of those images are so powerful, yeah.
It's amazing when you think about the photography right now, and you talk about instantaneous, but what is being transmitted, as you say, during the last week around the fires, gave you a sense of urgency, and as only photography can do. You felt like some of the photographs, you literally could feel heat emanating from the pictures. It was the photography was that powerful, that profound.
Definitely, the still is alive and well. It's I have to reach out to David Hockney actually soon, and to have a talk with him.
Let's all have coffee because I would like to meet him.
I have a feeling he would still believe that painting was indeed.
No, he's incredible. He's incredible.
So let's talk about where we are in the world now and how what both of you are doing is so important right now, and where your body of work is. You, Annie, have photographed every president, since Nixon. You have photographed all the way through Nixon, Carter, Ford, Reagan, the Bushes, Clinton, of course the Obamas quite extensively, and President Trump in other realms. you have photographed. And so the body of
I'm
work...
a little more interested in Melania right now, actually.
Yeah.
Well, indeed, you photographed Melania Trump.
Actually, but Amy, actually, we have unfinished business because I do want to. I was thinking about that the session that we had, the first one we had, and I don't even remember those pictures, because I was so obsessed with what you told me. You told me about how your mother had kept your childhood home. Your room
Exactly the way that
exactly
it was when I
this
left, yeah.
growing up, and you weren't allowed to put any imagery, on
No posters on my wall in my bedroom. The bedspread matched the bed ruffles, matched the floor, matched the paint on the walls. Like everything was pristine. And it's funny. So what's interesting, and this is how when I say like you walk into a space and you like don't have a plan and let the plan evolve. When Annie came to Columbus, Georgia to photograph me in that house, which my parents built in 1973, we had not been in that house for 3 years. And so this was 2023. COVID had come upon us. My mom, my sister, and I, we all hunkered down in Atlanta, Georgia. So we hadn't been back there. So like I unlocked the door and I looked back at you and I was like, I don't know what we're walking into.
No, it was like, yeah, it was.
And what we walked into was like a roof that had collapsed. There was black mold everywhere. Like you literally couldn't breathe for more than like 2 or 3 minutes without having to go outside. And I was like, I don't think she's going to be able to do this. You know what I mean?
I think I came too late for this house.
Yeah.
For this moment.
Yeah. And it's incredible. Like you made it work.
No, what I love about you is you brought this green dress, and I was like, okay, you.
I was really like, what do you wear when Annie Leibovitz photographs you?
Very much in control,
I don't know what to wear.
whatever the situation is, and I have to go with it. It's all right with me. It's just like I was trying to figure out how to have a full-length green dress, in the bedroom, and we went up the stairs, and I couldn't even get far enough back to photograph the whole length of the dress. I actually did not know what I was doing, and then we ended up going back downstairs, and it really was like the front door opened and the natural light came in, and you saw the darkness of the house behind you, and in the stairwell there. That's where we ended up taking the photograph, and yeah. It's not attractive of you, and you are a very attractive person, and obviously.
Thank you.
But you, I let it go, and I actually I'm at the point where everyone should look as good as they want to look,
Yeah.
And I let it go, and for that reason, I want to, you had your hair pulled back very tight.
Yeah.
And
I had a lot going on.
yeah.
And I was like, I don't have time. I'm a black woman. Like, it takes time to do my hair.
Yeah.
And like, if I take these braids out, like, it was just a whole thing. You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't know what am I going to wear for Annie to photograph me? Like, this is a big deal. I don't have a stylist. I was like, I didn't know what to do. So it was just I was like almost panicked. Trying to figure out.
I would say that picture is very accurate for the moment.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a helter-skelter, picture, and there's something.
But it's a beautiful picture. I found it's a gorgeous
there is
picture.
Something I like about it.
First of all, I think it's a powerful picture. First, it's not just any green dress. It's like a Balenciaga gown.
Darren, you
look fabulous as a gay man. I love that dress.
Darren,
I love that
Darren, you are absolutely right.
You look fabulous.
Listen, I printed it. What I'm trying to say is there's another step to do with Amy, it is my job to figure out which story we're going to tell, and that is what I do like about portraiture, is that it's not journalism, and it really I have the opportunity in portraiture, which you as do as well to have that point of view, and that is why I can be conceptual, and I can and that interests me a great deal. So that's why I'm not finished, and that is actually, if there's a secret to my work, I'm not afraid to go back.
So you're going to go back and
I
have another round with Amy
definitely going
Sherald.
back.
Yeah.
No, we're going to have a collaboration next time.
And where will you go this time?
We haven't talked
Annie
about
will
it.
know. I don't know. I'm just going to do whatever she wants me to do.
Can we be witness to this, or is it just between the two of you?
We're very introverted people, you know, like this is.
I love that they were saying backstage, we're so introverted, we won't talk. It'll be really hard for us to talk. You'll see. It's been really hard to get you two going.
Because it's like a cold plunge. You just got to like jump right in and you're like, oh my gosh. And then you're like, do you know what you just said? No. But we started talking. Like,
It's a miracle.
It is not a miracle. So let's talk about, though, how the body of work you're pursuing now, is it evolving? Is it changing? You, Amy, and I know many of us would love to hear about the upcoming show at the Whitney and all the amazing things that we saw out in San Francisco, and hoping that it's all coming to New York.
most of it is coming, and then, there'll be some add-ons as well. It's honestly so hard to talk about that show because my brain is already in the next dimension. And I'm just trying to figure out how to evolve. And I think I'm living this big question now and like trying to match my practice with the pace of the art world and what my needs are as a creative person.
This is the last time she's doing this, is what she.
Yeah, basically.
The last time she's doing this is what I'm saying.
And like I had a conversation with myself a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I haven't had a lot of time to play in my studio. Like I just don't have time. Like somebody asked me today, we were having luncheon, and Chanel asked me if I draw, and I'm like, I kind of don't have time to draw. Like I have ideas and I have to make them, and there's the art market, but then there's like the artist. And I'm thinking like maybe I should just like make some stuff and have a show just about stuff that I made, because it's part of the process. Like everything doesn't have to be this like perfect presentation. It can be like, these are some different thoughts and different ideas that I was working on, and like maybe you won't see this stuff again. This is like a one-off because it's stuff that I wanted to paint but couldn't quite articulate how it fits into this bigger picture. And then through that process, I'll go back and find myself again and like move on. But I'm really considering that, just having a show where it's just like, these are some things that I'm thinking about. I don't know what I said I was gonna name it a few of my favorite things. But
I think
I
we
I
all
wanna
would
do
love that, Amy. And I think one of the things many reasons you're so admired is because it takes a long time to produce an Amy Sherald painting. Mm-hmm. You don't have a lot of people in the studio helping, and it takes a long time. And therefore, I mean, the commercial demands, because everyone wants an Amy Sherald painting, as you know. And my wonderful Kaywin Feldman is out in the audience, and the director of the National Gallery of Art, where I am president, and we have waited to get in line to get an Amy Sherald, and I think we may finally have one.
Yes.
It has been an ordeal.
Yeah.
And we're the National Gallery of Art, okay? To get an Amy Sherald painting, because everyone, but I can imagine the demands on you when the National Gallery of Art is waiting for a painting of mine.
Yeah, I know. I can't sleep at night. It's like.
And so I think one of the things that is wonderful to hear you just sort of freestyling, I may just do something different That's just some stuff I want to do.
Just want to get it out, and I should be able to get it out without being, I don't know whether it be criticism or whatever, but I think the art market expects something. Like once Coke made Coke, they couldn't like change the formula. It's like it has to be Coke, you know? And so there is a level of branding, I think, that happens with art making, and that's fine, but how do you explore within that realm? How do you like evolve and like, you know, make the next album, essentially, you know?
Right. Well, and you are articulating what every great artist in our capitalist system
Yeah,
is confronted with.
yeah,
People want that. They want that Michelle Obama-like portrait. And you may say at some point, I'm tired of doing that.
yeah,
And I think I want to do something else.
yeah.
And I love that you're willing to assert your agency over your own creativity.
Yeah. I'm
How do
only a
you-
slave to myself. You know what I mean?
And how do you,
So brave. So sorry. Thank you.
how do you,
So
Annie,
brave
think
to
about,
be able to say this, you know, really.
and for you, Annie, as an artist who, I mean, so many people over the years have said, wanted to commission an Annie Leibovitz photograph of themselves, because we know that with portraiture, having the most important documenter of whatever, that whether it's portrait or photography, painting or photography, they want to have, well, get Annie Leibovitz. Are there people you say, I just don't want to take your picture?
It's actually very hard to do something for someone, you know, because there's so much, there's an expectation of what they imagine themselves to be. And, you know, sometimes you're not in the same place that they are, you know. It's not, it was very hard for me to do portraits of friends and people that I knew, because I knew how they imagined they looked, you know, and it wasn't necessarily how I saw them. Yeah.
So with photography, with doing the kinds of portraits you do, it really is about how you see them, less than like you projecting.
No, it's more like how they don't see themselves, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people, it's particularly the kinds of people who could afford an Annie Leibovitz photograph, I mean, think pretty highly of themselves.
No, it's not. I don't think it's like that. I was just saying that it's just more complicated, you know. Okay.
Yeah. You oftentimes just want to be like, no, you learn how to be a painter and you paint your own portrait. So like they need to learn how to be a photographer and then they can take their own, because it's like, I'm not here to create your vision. Like you're here to let me create a vision of you.
You know, you brought up at the luncheon the picture of Ella Fitzgerald and
The iconic Ella Fitzgerald.
no, but
photograph.
it's not. I mean, when I drove up to her house, she was, you know, later in age. You know, she didn't live that much longer, and she was in her window on the second story looking out, and she was very closed off from people. And the picture of her should have been in that window looking out, you know. Instead, I did this thing where we did go through her closet, so it was a lot of fun. I mean, there were some great clothes in there. And she did have that car in
Right.
under, you know, in her garage in the back. But, you know, we kind of fabricated that, and it wasn't like what I really saw, you know.
But isn't
So
also,
now I think back on that when you're talking about that picture, I'm thinking she really, you know, there's another picture of her. Yeah.
But isn't portraiture also about fantasy?
Well, of course. I mean, well, who are you talking to? No, of course. No, I mean it can be a lot of things. It can be yeah. It's big. Which makes it not real.
No, we started by
real?
saying it is real, and that
Is portraiture real?
His portraiture. I mean, our picture is real.
No.
Okay, thank you.
then
Because everybody
but they-
turns something on, unless it's like
right,
a
but
candid
they serve
photograph.
they may not be real,
Yeah.
but they tell us something. They serve a profound purpose. Do they not?
They are and can be instructive, yes.
I have to think about that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think when you see, is there something very interesting about the collective grouping of photographs from a period of time? They start to reveal something more than just individual pictures, actually. I don't know, there's something.
Yeah, I feel that way when I walk through my show at SF MoMA, just to see all of my little warriors, I call them, like all standing together.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You know, like just really, because I also feel, I mean, like, I always say this, like, work can be employed in many different ways. So, like, on one hand, we can say portraits aren't real. On the other hand, they're very real, and representation matters, and you know what I mean? So, I think it's expansive, like you said, but because for me, I oftentimes feel like as quickly or slowly, because I'm a painter, as I create an image, it's like I'm battling a visual zeitgeist of the opposite of what I'm doing, you know, and it's like, then I become a machine putting out these images to fight the machine that's like trying to tear them down. And it's just, you know, so there's a part of me that wants to, I get out of breath even talking about it, because that's what it feels like, making the work. It feels like there's so much art history to make up, especially when I think about art history, and I think about, you know, I say this in talks all the time, but I'm like, art history is very long. Like, we're talking about cavemen, and like, black artists weren't given a real show until like the 1940s. And so it's just like this idea of playing catch up to art history when it's so long, it just, you know, so I carry that weight with me. But then I also just want to be free, you know? And so I was raised in a church, and so this is the language that I'm going to use. I'm not religious now, but like that keeps me in the flesh, and I'm trying to live in the spirit. And so, like, where do I find that balance where I can continue to evolve as a person, as a woman, as a black person, as an American? How can I keep that balance of, like, not getting sucked into the flesh of life and letting my spirit roam and be free and be creative and make beautiful things that matter? So that's...
I really feel like whatever you're going to do, you could go either way, and it's going to be okay either way. I'm just looking at this line that through imagination we can invent ourselves and generate the world we want to live in. Mm-hmm. That's you.
That's me.
And both of you, in your using your craft, have really also been at the forefront of social commentary. I mean, Amy, your portrait of Breonna Taylor, I mean, that portrait was a transformational painting in a moment of racial history in this country. Why did you feel compelled to stop everything and paint Breonna Taylor?
I'm still amazed that our lives even intersected. It's just incredible. It's just incredible that I found myself in that moment. It felt like the right thing to do. Again, like, there's that responsibility to use this talent that I have, this craft that I have, to assist in creating visual culture around a moment like that, what was happening. And I was scared to do it. When Ta-Nehisi first asked me, I was like, oh no, you know? But I felt called to do it at the same time. It just felt like the right thing to do, and I felt like the right person to do it.
And for you, Annie, as you think about the moment that we're living through and the role that you can play as a photographer, an artist, what do you want your contribution to be?
I've just looked back to it's a lot of what I've been doing lately. I've been photographing a lot of women artists, and I didn't know I had as many as I had, but it's kind of powerful to look at us working in the art world. So it's kind of amazing, yeah.
I'm eager to hear from each of you. What gives you delight, joy, wonder, awe?
Process.
Yeah, I think it's process too. I think it's not.
Explain that for those
It's not
of
the
us who are
painting.
not
So
art
process
people.
is like process is everything. Process is
Were you walking down the street when you
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
your friend? I mean, that story was so beautiful. That was as beautiful as the
that's
painting.
process. Process was going to the studio every day and like being aware of my surroundings, and things find you and you realize that this is supposed to make it into a painting. Like I think that's the most pleasurable part of my process. It's like being able to sit down and watch movies, looking at all of your catalogs in preparation for this conversation became part of my process. Like I found so much inspiration in seeing image after image after image of what you have been able to capture. Reading is process, looking at poetry is process, talking to friends. I mean, like just having conversations, it's everything. Life, it's just life, because life makes art. You can't make art without living a life.
I just want to say I'm inspired by your work, and your simplicity is so powerful, to me, and it reminds me that you don't. I mean, I know it's more than. It's not as simple as it looks, but you make it feel like that, and it's so. It doesn't have to. Anyway, I'm inspired by your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Final question as we wrap. I'd like to be hopeful right now. Amy, Annie,
I know that's hard.
can you help me be hopeful in this moment? Because one of the reasons I will tell you I am hopeful is because of artists.
Yeah.
Because in moments when I am bereft or depressed or dejected, particularly about any social issue, I think about artists, and I think about artists whose shoulders we stand on, who did not have the privilege that we have, did not have the abundance that we have, did not complain when they couldn't get a table at the right time at the hottest restaurant in town. I mean, the things that matter to us. They never had that. And yet they persisted to create beautiful work, write demanding, remarkable, courageous poetry and literature. Are you hopeful? Can you find reasons for hope now?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, and I guess I'm cheating a little bit because like my natural affect or default is hope. It just is. So like, I have friends who I haven't spoken to since Trump was elected because they just couldn't handle life after that. And I was like, this man about to ruin my life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm about to paint my ass off. I'm gonna paint my ass off and like get myself ready to fight the fight for whoever. There's a lot of vulnerable communities out there that are gonna be affected, and we need to figure out how to help them, so.
She said all. That's great.
Life is short.
join me in thanking Annie Leibovitz and Amy Sherald.